Well, welcome everyone to the International Mentoring Community Mentoring Lounge. Great to have you amongst us today. I am Stephen Hobbs. I am doing this alone today. Normally my traveling companion, walking companion won't be able to make it. So I'm going to take this forward. So welcome. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the topic of the importance of mentorship portfolio. And what we're going to have happen here is we're going to take a look at the kind of topics that I think would be of great interest to you in terms of organizing a portfolio for yourself. So to be able to have this take place, then what we're going to do is say to ourselves, okay, what are the topics we're going to cover off? So we have the overview of what is a portfolio and then link it to logbooks and then shape what it means to be mentor ready, able, and willing with your portfolio. And then how might your portfolio give you a place to review, reframe, and rescript. And then I'll take a look at some benefits of a portfolio from a mentor, mentee, and sponsoring organization point of view. And this is where I'll ask you to do your own self-assessment. There are some comments that I will make. And then when is it that's it's helpful to weave portfolios together? If we have these three kind of portfolios under the mentorship banner, when is it a good idea to weave them together and when don't you weave them together? That's what we're going to be covering off today. So to get this started, I think that the most important point is to take a look at what is a portfolio. Now, in the international mentoring community, we use them as a means for the person who's going through certification to pull together all of their material under the banner of mentorship so that what they can do is apply for their certification and go through the process. So really what it's doing is it's saying, okay, well, do you have some samples of your work? And that could be the logbook. A mentoring logbook is a possibility. It could be maybe some notes that you've created and that you've used in a mentoring session. And what you're doing is you're using the portfolio to be able to frame up some stories that you can tell and share. Tell from the perspective of you manage the system this way, or from a leadership point of view, as you help the person from this perspective, and being able to bring out the current knowledge that you have and your living and lived experience. And what it's really doing is it's saying to you, if you're the one who's pulling the portfolio together and sharing it, so let's say I'm talking to you as mentees, you're sharing back with me as a mentor, and you're saying, this is my learning and knowing based on my portfolio. Great. I might do the same thing as a mentor talking to a sponsoring organization and saying, if you want me to get involved with the mentoring program, here is my portfolio and I can share with you my learning and knowing and some stories and samples of work. So there's a couple of ways of looking at it. Because really what it's doing is it's summarizing the tangible and intangible outcomes that you've achieved personally and accomplished with others. And that what that does is it allows you to convey the steps that are linked with your continuous learning, your development, and your growth. So there's another aspect of portfolio that's really important. So a portfolio is made up of Processfolio and Productfolio. So you can sort of think of it as a triangle. So if you're having the portfolio, then there's a process and there's a product folio that goes with it. So the Processfolio is bringing forth the actions that you've taken to get the outcome. So what processes have you used? What mentoring techniques have you put into action? The Productfolio is what are the outcomes that have come about. So you could talk about, well, we had so many different mentoring sessions. The mentee was able to actually work through some of the issues that they brought. They made a marked difference in their work in such a way as A, B, or C. And what you're doing is you're saying these are the products that came about. So your portfolio is really a collection of your action outcomes, the actions you're taking and the outcomes you've achieved. And so when you bring that together, there is a lot of richness based on like the definition I've just given you and these two elements that weave together. Now, what's important here is, are you attempting to use the portfolio to make it simpler, deeper, better, wiser, kinder? This is a way of looking at it. And I chose today is that I said, I think based on the topic on where we're going with this, about ultimately having a conversation about, do you or can you weave the different kind of portfolios together? And when don't you weave? So for me, I think the topic is really about going deeper into the use of the tool and technique of portfolio, Productfolio, Processfolio, so that we can get to a point of being wiser in its use, both for you as a mentor and mentee in the sponsoring agency. There are other times where simpler, better, or kinder would then come to the surface, but I've left them here to also remind you is that if you're going deeper or wiser, don't give up on the simpler, better, and kinder as well. Now, what becomes interesting here as a mentor, so I'm sharing with you as a mentor, is that for you to be ready, able, and willing, your portfolio is a way in which to give you the assurance, the confidence, yes, I'm ready to mentor, I'm able to mentor, and I'm willing to mentor, and I can show the proof of that through the portfolio. And what's happening is that ready, able, and willing is that I'm ready, I have the knowledge, I'm able, I have the skills, and I'm willing because of the attitude. And I can document that in the portfolio, I can show it to you, and that comes as one of the benefits that we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, what this does then is it says, okay, flip this around just slightly, and from a portfolio point of view, you can use the portfolio to do a review of your mentoring arrangement and relationships. You can then reframe them and rescript your mentoring approach because of your portfolio. So what's really happening here, as you're gathering together, I'm ready, able, and willing, I can document in the portfolio, then what I can also do is I can use it to do reframe, rescript my mentoring approach. So it has a certain amount of aliveness associated with it when you're using your portfolio. So I would certainly encourage you to really get in touch with, and I'm just going to go back here a few slides and just say to you, understand what a portfolio does, samples of your work. It's a way to frame up telling and sharing a story. It shows your learning and knowing, being the author of that learning and knowing. It's about the tangible and intangible outcomes. It's about how you're doing your continuous learning, development, growth, what else that you need to do. So keep that in mind as you work through that. The portfolio is made up of the Processfolio, the Productfolio. You want to go deeper and wiser today, but you want to keep the other ones in mind. It's really about you as a mentor being ready, able, and willing based on your portfolio so that you can use the portfolio to review, reframe, and rescript your mentoring approach. So if you need to, just go back through those other slides and come back and just keep doing it and seeing how it unfolds with you. This notion of portfolio is a living process, and later I'll give you a link to a page or a mention where you can get an overview of a mentoring related portfolio from a professional, personal, organizational perspectives. All right, so let's then say, okay, what are the benefits of a portfolio that come to the surface? Now, these are 7. You could say, well, I could add this or I could add this. Great, wonderful. That's what this page is really about, is that it's getting you to think through as a mentor, are you seeing the benefit of a portfolio? And you would just put a check in each of these. As a mentee, do you see the benefits? As the organization organizing, sponsoring the mentoring arrangement, mentoring relationship, do you see these as well? So this page is really a self-assessment, but just very quickly, I think I've hinted enough that one of the benefits of the portfolio is that it's the evidence of your growth, your learning and your development. It's also a way to communicate what you have brought together, your achievements and accomplishments. When we go into the certification with IMC, the International Mentoring Community, we do it as an open book. So you can bring your portfolio into the meeting and be able to reference it at any point in time. Or because we do a lot of it online, people sometimes actually then take out certain pages of it and be ready to present it. Other times you can just hold it up against your chest and talk about it, and we get the sense of it. So it's a communication tool. The lifelong learning is, what is it that I have learned and what is it that I still need to learn? That is still a very valuable insight, contribution in the use of the portfolio when you're using it to say, hey, I'd like to get involved with a mentee. Here's who I am. I'm going for certification. This is what I've learned. It's also, in some ways, in some parts of the world, and for advancement professionalism, they're looking for ways in which to do some kind of assessment, prior learning assessment. Portfolio is a great way to do that. So there's use there. It's also a credibility factor. You could say to mentees, I can have a discussion about my portfolio. I can bring some of the elements out when we have our conversation. That's going to add credibility to what's happening. And in some ways, we could use a term like social proof. It's also a tailored approach, is because what it's doing is that you're using it and the mentee would use it and the organization would use it to tailor an approach to mentoring. What I often talk about is I encourage persons to get involved in holistic reciprocal mentoring. Some others might say, well, we'll just do peer mentoring, intergenerational mentoring, different kinds of mentoring from that perspective. But I'm always chatting about holistic reciprocal mentoring. And it's a way for standing out. There's not a lot of people who actually have a portfolio about their mentoring. And I have one, and I can bring things to the foreground when I need to be able to share. My walking companion in IMC, Doug, he has his because he's gone through certification and he's had to bring his portfolio forward a few times now. So it's something that has lots of benefits. But you know what? I have unfortunately seen people start it, but they don't finish it. And I go, why is that? And they go, well, it seems like it's a lot of work. I said, well, if you take each day and just add, or each week, just add, update, make it work for you. The benefits on the other end of actually having it, which you see here, it's possible to say, hey, this is great. I can put this to work for me. So yeah, some people say it's not going to work. It's just too much work. And others go, ooh, this is great. But if you go for certification, no matter where, having your portfolio ready, it's a way to stand out. So the question that really came to mind for this live was, do you or can you weave portfolios together? And when don't you weave portfolios together? Now, I brought this to the foreground because I wanted to have that moment to sort of share this learning, because yes, there's times when it makes sense to weave those three together. So what I'm talking about is mentor, mentee, and the organization. And there's times not to. I've slipped up along the way, but mostly I've always caught myself before I got myself into a real issue. It's important to be able to say is that, hey, listen, it's really important that we take a look at what this is all about, what we're going to do with these portfolios, because if that's happening, then you are stepping forward, moving forward to advance the mentoring approach, the relationships, the arrangements that are available. So let's take a look at, to weave portfolios together, when does it make sense? So from a goal alignment. So each person, mentor, mentee, and the sponsoring agency saying, we have the goals. There's certain reasons I want to do this. And when you bring them together, it shares the whole story, because that links into, okay, here's a shared outcome from all of our perspectives using that lens. It's also about holistic development, taking the all things are connected view to what's taking place, the systems approach. Because if you are from a mentor, you are influencing the mentee. But if the sponsoring agency is getting a little bit in the way of that mentor-mentee relationship, well, it'll have a holistic impact. It will have a systems impact on what's taking place. But it's also great for storytelling and story sharing, because maybe if, let's say, you're in an organization, you're in a department, you're doing mentoring, and you want to share between this department A and that department W what's going on, then you're able to bring some of the ideas out of the shared portfolios together to be able to help that story, the telling of the story, the sharing of the story. But also what it does is it gets you ready to really advance knowledge, skills, and attitude, and balancing them off. Because there's been a couple of times where I've been mentor with a mentee, but the sponsoring organization didn't really provide enough support to that connection. So I had to go and have a conversation with the sponsoring organization, say, for this to work, you've got to come and be a little bit more active in what's taking place, because I want to make sure that the mentee is taken care of when I'm not there, or once the mentoring arrangement is being finished, has been completed. So they got that and got evolved again, and that's wonderful. But the also another time is for a feed forward and reflection. Is feed forward is giving insights in the moment that helps you to continue moving forward. Often we fall into feedback, which means you go into history of something that's happened in the past, bring that into the present, and sometimes it gets a little dusty back there and it doesn't make sense in the moment that you might bring it up, and you might go, well, why are you bringing that up? That happened a couple of months ago. Versus, oh, this is what happened today. I'd like to share the following. Can we then maybe talk about it the next time we get together? Feed forward, and to really get that reflection in and reflection on going. So obviously, if these are ways to weave portfolios together, and the main intent of this presentation, right, is to take a look at it when it doesn't work. But what I would also encourage you to do is please comment around the video wherever you find this. What do you think about what's happening, or does this make sense from a portfolio together? And then let's have a conversation about what's going to happen here. When not to weave them together. Confidentiality. Sometimes the conversation between mentor and mentee is not to be known by the organization. You want to keep it between the mentor and the mentee. Now, you may get your portfolios together and say, out of that, we'll share a story that is of value to the organization. But you may not blend all three of them together as is. There may be some editing that has to take place, some add, alter, delete. When there's not a clarity of focus, and I can go back, remember I gave you that example, the organization didn't really support the mentoring arrangement and relationships until I got them more involved. So there wasn't a focused support. So to draw them in and use them from a story sharing point of view, it may have not looked so good for the sponsoring organization. And that's how I finally hooked them and got them in and involved with that mentee. Maybe there's diverse audiences who want to learn from the collection of the three persons or the portfolios together. Sometimes the sponsoring organization, the organization which it's happening, they just need some base stats to speak to their stakeholders about funding or how they're using mentoring to do the organizational shift work. But it may not pertain, that information is of great value to the mentor and mentee in some way. So the diverse audiences could play. So if the audiences line up and the focus of being together and the confidentiality is not being compromised, then it goes back over to, yes, it's a great idea to weave them together. But here's another place where there may be a way to say no, and that's around conflict of interest. Now, let's say for something might happen with the mentee and they give you some information about the workplace, and you're going, oh gosh, as a mentor, okay, you let me know, but I can't do anything with that, even though they may be saying, can you have a chat with the sponsoring organization? That could be a conflict of interest. I think what would happen there is that we would start to get a little grit in the between the stones, and that can wear things pretty thin. And that's not a really great way of doing it. I almost had that once, but I headed it off and said, look, if you've got a conflict of interest with your supervisor who suggested this mentoring arrangement, if we need to have a chat of the three of us, okay, I can show up, but we're going to do it with this focus. And then I said to her, go and have a chat. If the supervisor said, let's get mentoring for you, then being able to have a conversation with them, it's going to be open. There will be some open channels there for you. And it did work out, so it's great. The other one where we get a little bit of issue is where there's overwhelming complexity. So from a mentee point of view, they're going, whoa, there's just so much coming at me in terms of what's taking place. So can we take a look at sort of saying, hey, listen, why don't we slow this down just a little bit, knock this into a couple of smaller elements and deal with them? Because it's just too much here for me as the mentee to be able to deal with this. And that's where I found it very useful to use some of the other education approaches or get other persons involved. So I had an opportunity where I had to get a trainer involved because the mentee didn't have the specific skill that was necessary. So I asked them to get a trainer to bring them up to date with the new software that they thought the mentee already had. It just took a couple of sessions. Once that was all updated, then we got back on track and everything seemed to be working. And the mentee went, oh, okay, I get where we're going. And now I can see why they want me to get involved with this mentoring. And I go, okay, and then we're off to the races. So just about every one of these, when you don't do it, I have encountered along the way. And that's why I brought these ones forward, because I have lived experience in them. And so when you look at these, just sort of say to yourself, okay, if I feel like I'm touching any of these, then really take a good close look at what's unfolding for you, okay? Now, what this does is it says to us, okay, yes, there are lots of videos available on the channel, and the ones that are recommended to you right now, give them a look. Take care. And that's what is important. Just please watch the different channel videos. That would be really helpful. And I just wanted to make mention of that before I start looking at closing this down. But let's just say to ourselves, okay, the benefits of the portfolio, here's 7. You could probably go across and say, check, check, check for each one of them across the 3 different audiences. You could say, hey, this makes sense to weave them together. But pay attention when you know they don't weave together, and figure out what it is that you're going to do to make that happen. So I'm hoping that that has been of value to you. I just wanted to check over here on the chat function. Is there anyone who's looking to get any questions asked? Doesn't look like there's anything over there. Okay, nope, nothing there. So this was meant to just do this overview. I would certainly encourage you to go, okay, this is great. Thanks for that. I'm going to go back and watch it again. Wonderful. But also, if we can be of assistance to you, then you can direct message us or use the comments section or go to wealthmovement.com/contact. This information is all in the comments section. There's a pinned comment that you can use. And I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put a link to a blog post that outlines the basis of a portfolio. It's a very generic format that has personal, professional, organizational considerations in it. It's a place to start, and then from there you can edit it, add, alter, delete what makes sense for you, and keep moving forward with your portfolio. If you're a mentor, I would encourage you to do it. Logbooks are great. They are one element, but if you bring more and give it a little bit more robustness, you have something that can be used in a lot of really beautiful ways. From a mentee point of view, if you start getting into the rhythm of creating your portfolio, you have something that can help out in your advancement and professionalism. But also, if you turn and say, hey, listen, I'd like to become a mentor, you've got something to work with. And then from a sponsoring agency point of view, the encouragement of the mentor and mentee to create portfolios so that you can use them for storytelling, story sharing, to be able to show how valuable mentoring is in the area or across a department, in the organization as a whole. You have that available to yourself. So come back, look at the links, get involved, comment, subscribe. That would be of great assistance. And I think that with that, I'm going to do one more check of the chat function. There is nothing there. Okay. So thanks very much for listening in. I wish you the best. A couple of weeks from now, we'll do another live. It will be announced. And if you come over to Mentor Practices here at YouTube, then there is the announcements that are made there. Also, there's lots of great videos that you can tap into to be able to advance and amplify your mentoring approach to improve focus and strengthen mentoring arrangement, mentoring relationships. So with that, I am going to share. Take care, and we'll